For those who don't know, could you tell us a little bit about BuyRentKenya?
Sure. So BuyRentKenya is Kenya's leading property marketplace that connects buyers and sellers online in a highly convenient way that allows them to transact online. We're very much committed to transforming the real estate market in Kenya by democratizing market structures so that it supports one's home buying and renting decision in search for property by offering digital solutions to the Kenyan real estate marketplace.
Okay, and you guys are part of Rome, is it ROAM, or do you say Rome? Ringier One Africa Media.
So Ringier One Africa Media, a joint venture. We were acquired by Ringier in 2017. And with that acquisition, we heavily have invested into our technology as we really believe in championing our relationships with our customers and their businesses by equipping them with real estate management relationship tooling, which is at the back end of our website. It helps them manage the leads and listings, as well as give them the ability to post and distribute multiple listings on various channels. So basically creating the flywheel effect. When they post more, they get more seekers. When they get more seekers, more leads. With that offering, we also invested very much into our BI or Power BI reporting tools to track business insights for data-driven sales. And we are really a well-known brand amongst real estate agents, developers, private sellers, as well as our B2C audiences, as we mark 10 years in the business.
Okay. And how do you primarily monetize? Is it a freemium model? Is it a pay-per listing model? Is it subscription? And what is more or less the split between primary and secondary?
Right. So basically, it's a pay-to-list model. Or pay to advertise model. And our customer portfolio really consists of real estate agents, our developers, private sellers, and also those in the ancillary service offering within the value chain of real estate. So moving companies, we've worked with financial institutions to provide mortgage services, and we provide mortgage leads to them, and home services amongst others in the pipeline.
Okay. And who are your main competitors in Kenya? I know there are some, it's quite a competitive market, Kenya, I think. Am I right in saying? Yes.
As much as we compete with quite a few real estate marketplaces. So to name a few, in country, there is Property 24. There is Kenya Property Center, Property Pro with horizontals like Gigi. But we are the only ones with physical and operational presence on the ground compared to the vertical players. We also offer a diverse product suite and account management services, and we are a dedicated property vertical business. Yes, horizontal players advertise both heavily offline and online, and also vying for the same customers and space. But I'm happy to say that we're quite proud when it comes to thought leadership and stakeholder partnerships within the industry.
Okay, that's interesting. What are these? What kind of characterizes the Kenyan market? I mean, I'm guilty as a journalist of perhaps thinking of most sub-Saharan markets, kind of lumping them into one homogeneous bucket. What is it that really characterizes Kenya as a market, as opposed to, say, Nigeria or South Africa?
Well, I think quite a few things. If I can think, Kenya is one of the most stable economies in the region. So its currency is only really devalued by 20% over COVID, which is much better than most of Africa, especially in the big African economies like Nigeria. So it's really seen as one of the best opportunities for success in the region. The economy is slowly limping back post-COVID, post-election year. We're also reeling from the Ukraine-Russian war. There's the rollout of the vaccination programs, and travel is resuming. So we see investor confidence and expatriates and tourists returning, thereby boosting the demand and performance, not just in residential, but also in the hospitality and the job level sector. We have a mature banking sector, really well-developed financial sector. The advent of mobile information and communication technology, or what we call ICT, development. So the ceiling for innovation is just, almost indefinite at this point. Kenya has a growing population. Right now it's at 55 million, set to grow by 85 million in 2050. So coupled with economic growth, definitely we're going to see a boom in real estate. It's a mega trend, urbanization in Africa, and Kenya is no exception. And it's projected at 35% right now, aligned to the government's Big Four agenda of unlocking the affordable housing initiative, mainly to meet the deficit of 2 million homes and bridge the gap of home ownership, which currently sits at 21%. We have a growing middle class, which has led to the increased number of people looking to buy or rent. And the gaps in the market, I mean, this is where online portals really provide valuable service by filling in information and providing accurate and up-to-date transparency when it comes to property information. And that's what BuyRentKenya is trying to do, is democratize these market structures. Increased internet penetration. Kenya has an internet penetration of 42% and a smartphone connection, which is really insane. The growth is at 119%, I think, last quarter, which means that 1 in every 2 Kenyans has at least 2 to 3 SIM cards. And that's why, as a marketplace, we have invested very heavily into technology to having a mobile-first approach. There's also cloud-based services looking to be closer to the population centers and giving them more sophisticated services in a more timely manner and reduce transit. So companies like Microsoft, Google, amongst others, are really setting up in a large expansion when it comes to Kenya and across Africa. And then Africa really remains underserved when it comes to data center provision. So there's clear opportunities for development of not just retail and wholesale, but also built to suite sort of hyperscale data centers, because we want to keep up with an increasing complex demand for both individual, but as well as state level.
Okay, so you said that there's some really great kind of tailwinds for the market, burgeoning middle class, smartphone adoption, things like that. Yeah. But I imagine there are still some quite big challenges of operating a real estate vertical business in a market like Kenya, especially if we compare it to Europe. What are those challenges, and how much do you kind of pay attention to what real estate portal companies are doing in places like Europe and the US with iBuying and next gen, lead gen, and all these things? Are they relevant, and do they apply to the kind of challenges of working in Kenya?
Okay, so let me first answer about what are some of the challenges we have experienced or we've seen in Kenya. So when we see kind of the same challenges in almost all markets, each country may not be as unique as you think there are or there is. Definitely lack of trust and transparency, daily challenges in experienced by Kenyans, lacking legacy infrastructure and that entrepreneurial spirit. However, our markets are ripe for disruption with the digital rise, and we support this by creating leading marketplaces and connecting Kenyans to homes. But as mentioned, there's also limited access to technology and internet infrastructure in remote areas, making it difficult for potential customers to access portals and also our own portals as the rollouts of 5G take place. There's also limited understanding when it comes to an online property marketplace. There's confusion, first of all, between a marketplace and a real estate agent. You will get people ringing you up and thinking you are an agent. And it's like, no, I'm not an agent. And we just a platform that connects buyers and sellers. So there's that, or people not realizing how to navigate the site. There's also the rise of various social media channels, your WhatsApp groups, your Facebook groups, Instagram, Telegram. So in these cases, some people or property seekers experience fraud and conmanship. Yeah, and I think, I think iBuying not yet ready. The market is not ready. I think we're still in an emerging stage. We're not yet, there is the rise of fintech, there is the rise of e-commerce, but we're not there yet.
Okay, fair enough. I'm interested in your view on the state of outside investment into markets such as Kenya. Like you mentioned earlier, you have some quite big competitors, as it were, from big companies. So you've got Property 24, which is owned by Naspers. Property Pro, I believe, operates in Kenya, although, as you mentioned, they're not present in Kenya with staff, owned by Frontier Digital Ventures, and then obviously yourselves, who have the backing of Ringier One Africa Media. I got that right. Kenya is obviously quite an attractive market if you've got some of these large players in there. But I still think that the level of outside investment into African real estate vertical businesses isn't that big. Firstly, what makes Kenya attractive? But then what perhaps doesn't, what perhaps are the barriers for more investment, do you think?
So as mentioned, what makes Kenya attractive is the fact that we have the stable economy, right? But when we look at how the market has matured in the last 5 to 10 years, right? The pandemic disruption was just a catalyst to raising the digitalization levels of real estate brokers, taking their operations online, with internet accessibility now becoming more essential than ever for business continuity. So we expect this to drive the growth of core listings offering over the next few years. BuyRentKenya started offering different products and features, for example, virtual tours, data points that help with your market trend information, knowing in area X, this is the price bracket range, and various sort of blog articles around that to guide, whether it's your neighborhood guides or other information. There's also a new segment that we see in the real estate market, like a contraction of property technology that's coming up in several categories. So for example, in Kenya, we've got real estate cities or intelligent buildings, what we call smart cities, and that's being built right now in an area called Kwanza City. Collaborative economy construction, the Contech, as well as finance, as I've mentioned, fintech. So statistics show like strong growth in these sectors, and there's the rise of co-working spaces post-COVID, and then online sales, transactional platforms, data management platforms as well. Digital audiences, moving away from classifieds, your typical print, now seeing the growth of all these online marketplaces and social media to ease the process to help buyers and sellers connect. Changes in consumer preferences as well. What are people now looking for? Where are they looking for? So there's investment there with modern designs, clear areas, mixed use developments, places to live, work, and play. People are looking at more energy efficient, environmental friendly sort of green buildings. And so there's investment opportunities there. Co-living spaces and furnished apartments, so service apartments, have quickly become quite the hit and mainstream because we see not just amongst the local people, but also returning expatriates and those who are single, maybe looking for such kind of accommodation. I mentioned the availability of BI and the power of it to help. So help all of us who are investing, into setting up marketplaces. What is it that we can do to kind of sensitize property seekers, whether it's, having webinars, forums, such as interviews, such as the one we're conducting right now. What is it that we're doing to kind of promote that in the industry? When we talk about country to country, I think as much as we all compete, and maybe as much as you want to lump it up, I would say that each country and each region has its own unique real estate markets and own set of opportunities and challenges. Some countries in the region may have more developed and mature real estate markets. Others may be sort of in early stages of development. Some countries have higher levels of economic growth, more stable political environments, which make it more attractive for foreign investors, while it may be challenging for others. There's also the level of development that one needs to look at. Your population density, the urbanization varies country to country, that affects your demand for housing and commercial properties in different ways. So, and just to sum it up, different countries also have different sort of legal frameworks and governance that really, make the frameworks for the real estate markets. Yeah.
Okay, fascinating, honestly. Lizzie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I look forward to hearing more about BuyRent Kenya and the Kenyan market in general in the future.
Yes, thank you. It's been my pleasure.